Okay, well, Shabbat Shalom.
Shabbat
Shabbat
shalom.
shalom.
It's great to be with you again today. And wow, we've had what a time of praise and worship.
Out of the box.
Yeah. I told you, when was it? It was sometime earlier today. I said something. I've been watching some of the old Christ for the Nations online, where they do the full recording. It's like an hour and a half. Oh my goodness! Just what I loved. You know what one of the things that really stood out to me is when they pan the audience. They're doing praise and worship. They do different scenes, different instruments, the leader, the choir, all that sort of stuff in there. But when they pan across the audience and they have these focuses on different people in the audience, and you just see light. You see light in their faces.
Amen.
You see smiles in their faces, and they're just loving on Yah. They're just worshiping.
That's right.
And they look so free. And I just think about that. I think this is not judging anybody or anything like that. But the people, when I see people worshiping and when I see people, they don't care what they sound like. They just love.
Yes.
They're just loving on the Father.
Yes.
They got their hands raised and they're singing.
Yes.
And they might have a little bit of hop in their worship and you just see this life. That's what worship does to us. When we just engage with Him, it's very freeing. It's very liberating. And I just thought it was tremendous. So if y'all get a chance, well, they're not Hebrew roots or they're not Messianic or what, I don't care.
We're not the only ones.
These are people that
Praise
were worshiping. And so when you get a chance, go online to the Christ for the Nations worship on YouTube and pull up some of their live worship albums that they filmed as well. And it's good. Has anybody seen those before? Anybody watched those before? It's just
Different church, but same thing.
It's Christ for the Nations is a school.
Yes.
It's a
Bethesda.
Christ for the Nations Institute.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. But
Yeah.
I'm saying there's different avenues in that.
Yeah. So, and I only say that is because I've been playing it here, and it makes me not want to do anything else except engage. And those are recordings, and they're like 20 or 30 years old, and they're recordings, and all I want to do is it causes my heart to skip. It causes my spirit to be lifted up,
Yes.
and I just want. I'm like, my time is so limited. I want more.
Yes.
Because I want that time
Amen.
to just worship.
It's the infilling of the Spirit when you go into that realm with Him, and He is supernatural, and He is of a different realm.
Because
so
that's what we're created to worship.
Yes.
We're created to worship. So when our spirit connects with that,
right.
then it takes us there. And because it's some people would interpret it this way: forgive me, do not take offense. But the negatives that we hear in the world, all of this stuff that if you turn on the news, it doesn't matter what source, alternative or mainstream, it doesn't really matter. And they're talking about downer stuff that's like, it's all black pill stuff. I mean, stuff that just, and you're just like, you know what it is? It's a frequency. Okay.
Amen.
There are frequencies that are like nails on a chalkboard.
That's right.
And there's frequencies that are like a nice warm shower that's refreshing, or like nice cool water in the middle of the desert. It's just, they're frequencies that restore and renew. And that's what worship is like. And we need more. We can take a little bit of the negative stuff and then fill it with the good stuff.
Amen.
It's like, have you ever heard people pray and they're praying about all these downer things?
Yes.
Right? But what happens when when they pray, it is filled with Yah's word. It's filled with praise and His worship and His thanksgiving. Isn't there a difference?
Yes.
It's like, oh, I just want to pray some more. I just want to engage some more. And so anyway, that's one of the things that as I go into this, I'm going to just talk. I want to talk from the heart today. And some things that I found out of the Testament of Amram. The Testament of Amram, what are you talking about? Is this something that's like Muslim or something? Do you know who Amram is? He's the father of Aaron, Moses, and Miriam. Okay? So this is the Testament of Amram, and it was one of the documents that was found in the Qumran caves. And so this Testament of Amram is also known as the Visions of Amram. And so there's some really interesting things in these visions that I just wanted to share maybe a few things with you. Maybe this will kind of be an overview. Maybe we can go into more details in the future at some point in time. But when it says the Testament of Amram, have you ever heard of the Testament of the 12 Patriarchs? You've heard, if you've been around me, you've heard me mention them. The Testament of Amram, like the Testament of the Patriarchs, is a word that's given on the deathbed. It's a deathbed testament.
Wow.
So here are some things of my life that I'm going to share with you and impart to you because I want you to carry this word with you. I want you to carry it forward. Now, the Testament of Amram, you'd think, well, if this is a message from Aaron and Moses and Miriam's father, you would think that it was written way back when. But they date the writings somewhere around the 2nd and 3rd century before Yeshua. So the thought process is this like someone's actually taken the narrative that's been handed down from generation to generation and actually putting it on parchment, writing and putting it on paper, so to speak? Or is it something that someone creatively wrote, in a where they wrote it? I don't know. I don't know exactly how it is, but there's some very, very interesting themes that come out of the Dead Sea Scrolls that we see bleed over into the New Testament writings in the Brit Hadashah that give us that whole idea and the understanding of Yeshua the Nazarene, who we see much of what he teaches is thematically connected to the community of the Echad, which some would call the Essenes or whatever, but you see those connections, right? Well, you see these connections here with the Testament of Amram, and it's not that the parchment's got a lot of holes in it, so there's a lot of words that are missing, but there's some thematic things that you can read and you can see in it, and I wanted to maybe highlight a few of those. So first off, in the visions of Amram, it was considered to have been said on his deathbed. And it was when he gathered his offspring together, but not just his offspring, but also the cousins and other family members that are all gathered around and hearing these words, the will and testament of Amram. And in it, so it contains some blessings, but it also contains these visions and dreams that he has. And so it's an account of a couple different things, specifically concerning Moses and Aaron. So there's some prophetic words in there about Moses and Aaron. And it also kind of lends to an idea that Moses' Hebrew name may not necessarily have been Moses.
Wow.
Oh, wait a minute. Now you're stepping on my theology. His name is Moshe. And then he had he also had an Egyptian. Well, the Egyptian name related to that. And of course his Egyptian mother renamed him. There's different thoughts on all of that. well, there's things that are documented within Scripture, but I'm not going there. But in terms of his original Hebrew name, could possibly have been Malachiah.
Ooh, I like that. Malachi.
Like Malachi?
Uh-huh.
Malachiah.
How do you spell it?
So, think of Malachi,
Yeah, okay.
okay? So, in fact, we have, by the way, you have the spelling of Malachi within your, or some people would say Malachi. Right. It's not like a Malachi band. No, that's a.
No.
Boo. Okay. But his name's not actually Malachi. It's Malachiah, Y-A-H, Malachiah. So, but it's not necessarily a name as much as a title. So it's been given to him as a prophet. Malachiah was a prophet who was a messenger, being Malach. So Malachi is a messenger. It's also an angel. And it's also, so you can think of an angel or a messenger. It's been given to the name of a prophet, but it's also been used to name other prophets within Scripture. So it's a title that's been given. And so in the Testament of Amram, we have a little bit of a connection here. Instead of calling him Moses, he calls him Malachiah. Malachiah, it means messenger of God or angel of God. So anyway, so I wanted to hit on that. There's a lot more to the story on that, but let's go to the Testament of Amram and maybe hit some of these things. So it's very interesting. It says a copy of the book of the words of the vision of Amram, the son of Kohath, the son of Levi. So who is Amram? He was one who was born in exile. So we say exile, in Egypt. He was born as the son of Kohath, the son of Levi. And it says, all that he revealed to his sons and that he commanded them on the day of his death in the year 136, which was the year of his death, in the 152nd year of the exile of Israel to Egypt. And upon him, and he sent to call Uzziel, his youngest brother, and gave him in marriage to Miriam,
Wow.
his daughter, for he said, you, Miriam, are 30 years old. Then he gave a wedding feast 7 days long, and ate and drank and rejoiced at the feast. Then, when the days of the wedding were completed, he called for Aaron, his son, and he, Aaron, was a man of, it doesn't say, it says there's a gap, of years of age. And he said to him, call, and there's a blank, call and Malachiah from the house, there's a blank, above, he called him. And there's more blank. So there's like these holes, it's just eaten away. But we get the gist of it. He's calling Aaron, and he says, Aaron, get your brother and come. And says, in this land, so there was a blank, in this land I went up to bury our fathers. So probably talking about the land of Canaan, to bury our fathers. And I went up to arise to bind and pile sheaths and build great from the sons of my uncle altogether, and from our exceeding great labors until in Egypt there died. So what's he talking about? Who did they take from Egypt?
Joseph.
And they took Jacob. And they did that great big funeral procession. So Amram was part of that procession and took Jacob all the way back to the land to where he was buried. So he's referring to that. It took a lot of work to do that. Then it goes on, the rumor of war and unrest returned to the land of Egypt to meet, and they had not built graves for their fathers. Then my father Kohath released me to go to build and to get all their needs from them, from the land of Canaan. And while we were building, war broke out between the Philistines and Egypt. And probably it says Egypt was winning. So in other words, there were times that the Philistines and Egypt were battling. In fact, why? Because Egypt was expanding their borders during this time. So when the Egyptians and the Hebrew people took Jacob's bones all the way back to the land, there would have been this big caravan, and it would have been a royal army that would have gone with them in a procession, partly for protection, but also part of the, Pharaoh's guard. And it probably caused a little bit of destabilization among the Philistines to see this great, like an invasion into their land as well. But anyway, it was during that time of his life, there was a time of this war, rumors of wars, wars and rumors of wars. Then it goes on, and it says that Levi, his son, sacrificed to, probably Yahweh. It says, I said to you at the altar of stone concerning sacrifices, I rescued, he built at Mount Sinai. Now it's kind of going into talking about a dream that he has, because there's some gaps. But he says, I rescued, he built at Mount Sinai. Who's he talking about? He has a dream concerning Malachiah, Moses. And it says, he built at Mount Sinai a great blessing at the bronze altar from among all the people on earth. His son will be exalted as a priest. Then blank, and his sons after him for all the generations of eternity in truth. So there's this connection. He sees his sons, Moses and Aaron, connected with being a family of priests for all generations. And he gets this download and he gets this vision. Now, when we start to see some of the connections, because we talked a little bit earlier in our Torah portion about this, so how did they know Torah before Torah was written down?
Oh, that's good.
But then we have like this heritage from Levi and to Amram, and which came from Jacob and all of this. We have this heritage of faith. And in this heritage of faith, what's very important that I really want to bring out is this whole idea and this whole concept that certain things within our belief system can be solidified through our dreams. Now, every dream that we have, we must align with the word of Yah.
Yes.
It's very, very important. We can't just go around saying, I had this dream and God said. I remember we used to have a person that was part of our the International House of Prayer Amarillo that would always come up and say, God told me, God said this, God told me this, God told me that, God told me this, God said this. And it was like, God told me to wear this shirt today. I asked God what to wear and he told me to put these socks on. I'm like, okay, there's every thought in our head is not always God, because every thought in our head is just sometimes our thoughts in our heads, and we just,
or the enemies.
but so, and I said that to him one time, and it's like, it offended him. I'm like, not every thought is God, but nevertheless, but in the same vein, when we have dreams, we can't say, well, God spoke to me in this dream and said this, that, and the other, because sometimes it's just our subconscious working things out within us. That's a design for healing and restoration and recreation within us. Our dreams do that. But on the other hand, get this, Yah speaks to us in dreams. How do we know it's a God dream? Well, sometimes this is when it happens to me. It's the dream that I have right before I wake up, and I can't forget it. It shakes me. It grabs me. It arrests me. And it's powerful. And it's like, that wasn't me. That's, what are you saying to me?
Yeah.
Okay, this is how dreams work. And so I really think this is what's happening in these visions of Amram, these dreams of Amram. And it's so important that he talks about him on his deathbed. So he says, look, I have had this vision. Well, what do you think that's doing for Aaron and Moses when this dream that he has, or this vision that he has, it involves his own sons? Now, don't you think that Moses might have had this in the back of his mind when he's been out there in the wilderness for 40 years? Don't you think possibly when he's up there on the mountain where there's this burning bush situation blowing his mind? I don't know what this is all about. And he gets a tremendous download. He even argues with Yah about it, about his assignment. And then of all different things, as he's arguing with Yah, as we read in that context, and then Yah says, well, I'm going to bring to you your brother Aaron. In fact, he's on his way right now. And he's like, what do you think he's thinking? If he's saying, okay, wait a minute, my dad had a dream, and it involved me and my brother. And we're at that mountain. I'm at the mountain right now where that dream occurred at. Don't you think that would resonate within him?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Because he's been, what's he been doing? He's been herding the sheep and the goat around this mountain for 40 years.
He would need it.
And yet now the mountain stands out above all of the others in this entire region that he's been in. It goes on and it says, and his sons after him for all the generations of eternity and truth. So talking about that his son will be exalted as a priest, and his sons after him for all generations of eternity in truth. Now here's the thing. Go with me to Malachi. It's so weird because I opened up my Bible and it opened up directly to Isaiah chapter 60. We might go there because it kind of relates to what we're going to talk about today, if I have time. Go to chapter 2, Malachi, chapter 2, verse 4, and it says, then you will know that I have sent this commandment to you, that my covenant may continue with Levi, says Yahweh of hosts. My covenant with him, verse 5, my covenant with him was one of life and peace, and I gave them to him as an object of reverence, so he revered me and stood in awe of my name. So what does it tell us? It tells us that the covenant made with Levi, when, after the golden calf incident, was for eternity. It was to continue. So, what do we see here in this testament of Amram that happened during that silent period, those 400 years between the time of the writing of Malachi to the timing of the coming of Messiah, 400 years, it wasn't silent. It was things going on. And here we have this testament that's brought out, maybe handed down from generation to generation and put on parchment at that point in time. And we see a connection that echoes Malachi. And I awoke, and this is why we know it's a dream, and I awoke from the sleep of my eyes, and I wrote down the vision. I went out from the land of Canaan, and it happened to me just as he said, exalting, and afterward the 20th year, and I returned to the land of Canaan. And it goes on in some blanks. So kind of interesting. I wish we had those blanks filled in. Because he saw things of the future and even experienced some of those things that were within those dreams himself, even though some of the dreams had not yet been fulfilled. Going on, it says, and I saw watchers. This is fascinating to me.
Yes,
I saw watchers in my vision, the dream vision. 2 men were fighting over me, saying and holding a great contest over me. I asked them, who are you that you are thus empowered over me? This is interesting. Now, as it begins to lay out, I know that we have talked about how we deal with that which is light, that which is in darkness, that we know that we've been brought from the kingdom of darkness and into the glorious light. We know that Hasatan is the ruler over darkness, the darkness of this world, and his powers and principalities and rulers of dark places, these high places, but they're dark places. We know that there's these watchers, and some are evil and some are good. And so we have in his dream, he sees 2 fighting over him. Now, when you think about this, doesn't Deuteronomy tell us that, was it Deuteronomy? No, it was somewhere else. My mind's gone blank. Where Hasatan came to fight over the body of Moses. Why would there be a battle? And yet, here we have in this manuscript, this whole thing about this battle over Amram. Two entities, two watchers. And it says, I asked them, who are you that you are thus empowered over me? They answered me, we have been empowered and rule over all mankind. They said to me, which of us do you choose to rule you? Now it says something. Now the watchers understand that you and I have been given a free will. A free will. We choose. Well, didn't Joshua say, choose this day whom you will serve? As for me and my house, we will serve Yahweh.
Yes.
Yahweh. And it said, and so I raised my eyes and looked. One of them was terrifying in his appearance, like a serpent. His cloak, many colored, yet very dark. And I looked again, and in his appearance, his visage, like a viper, and wearing, and it blanks out, exceedingly in all his eyes. Speaking about Hasatan has more than two eyes. In all his eyes. It's like he's a multi-eyed creature.
Well, they say the seraphim have multiple eyes.
The seraphim looking all around, multiple eyes. Yeah. And then it goes on now, it says, empowered over you, so exceedingly in all his eyes empowered over you. I replied to him, this watcher, who is he? He answered me, this watcher, and his three names are Belial, and Prince of Darkness, and King of Evil. I said, my Lord, what dominion? And it blanks out. And his every way is darkened, his every work darkened. In darkness, he, and it blanks out, you saw, and he is empowered over all darkness, while I am empowered over all light. So now he's making inquiry, and I understand there's some gaps. It seems a little confusing, but he sees this creature. He asks who it is, but the conversation with whom he's speaking is a different watcher. In other words, he's talking to another watcher saying, who is this guy? Okay, who's this guy? Who is he? But definitely the ruler of all darkness. This is the battle of the will, the battle that each one of us battle every single day, even as believers. We are not immune and with deciding on a daily basis, on a moment by moment basis, whose voice we're going to listen to. Are we going to listen to the voice that is darkness, as deceiving as it might be? It might feel better to go a certain way, but it's darkness. That's the deception, right? So this response is saying that he is empowered over all darkness, while I am empowered over all light. From the highest regions to the lowest, I rule over all light, and over all that is of God, I rule over every man. So this one that he's speaking to is an angel of light, and this other that he's being told about is an angel of darkness. And the next fragment goes on, it says, of his grace and peace, I rule over every man, of his grace and peace, talking about Yahweh's grace and peace, over all the sons of light, that I have been empowered. Okay, the sons of light and the sons of darkness. We've talked a lot about that in terms of the sons of light and the sons of darkness. One of the perspectives of the exiled priesthood that were in Qumran and all those communities, the communities of the Ahad. they looked at those who usurped the power at the temple as sons of darkness. They took the word, they twisted the word, they're using it for their own reasons, for their own purposes, for their own, well, they literally just perverting the word in order to elevate themselves over the people. People are controlled by religious rulers.
Yeah.
And that was what was happening in Jerusalem. So the royal priesthood, the sons of Aaron from exile said they are the sons of darkness. We still represent consistently, thematically, the very words and teaching of Moses and Aaron. We hold that, and we're holding it in our community, waiting for the return or for the coming of the Son of Man. We're waiting for that time, and we're holding our ground. Even though we can't be at the temple, we're going to hold through our community standards a community of holiness. So in this, we have that separation of light and darkness. I asked him, what are your names? So he says, over all the sons of light, I have been empowered. So this person this being that he's talking to is empowered over all the sons of light. Now, there's some things in my theology that had some hiccups when I'm reading this. But it's my theology as opposed to a consistent thematic understanding of light and darkness and those who reside in one kingdom or the other. He said, so Amram asked, what are your names? So we got the names of this one that's empowered over darkness and over all the sons of darkness. He said to me, my three names are, this is interesting, Michael and Prince of Light and King of Righteousness.
Good. Yep.
Say that again.
Michael and Prince of Light and King of Righteousness.
Good.
Now understanding, King, Prince of Light and King of Righteousness. Now we know Yeshua as King of Righteousness,
That's what I asked.
right? And yet this person, this entity, it calls himself Michael. Well, who is Michael? Michael
Angel?
is an angel like Gabriel.
Yes.
He's a Malach. He's a Malach, an angel, a messenger of Yah.
Yes.
He's also one that fought against the prince of Persia and who had to come to Gabriel's side when Gabriel was trying to bring a message to Daniel in Babylon, right?
Wow.
So here we have this. So his responsibility, now one of his big responsibility is over, I thought it was very interesting, over all of the earth. And he's empowered in order to, let's put it this way, to assist Yah and to assist Yah's people, the people of light in all the earth.
Yep.
He represents righteousness. He represents light. And even though it seems like there's a mix of the titles, and we think, well, how can Michael have the name King of Righteousness? But I don't know. I'm going to put it on the shelf. Let's put it on the shelf for a little bit.
Yes.
Okay? Am I elevating him above Yeshua? No, not at all.
Same.
But this is a dream, and this is a vision that Amram is having, and he has these two entities. And remember, there's a great contest over him. And I'm going to just say this, Amram, like you and I, was an ordinary person. Just like we have thoughts, we have dreams, we have battles, and sometimes we lose battles and sometimes we win battles. Sometimes we succumb to the work of Hasatan, and we look back and we say, how could I have ever done that in my life? Right? And yet, when we surrender, we see the extension of Yah's hand to pull us up out of the miry clay, and he puts us on the rock, and he wipes us down, he cleans us up. And then not only that, he doesn't just leave us there on the rock, he grabs us by the hand.
Yes.
And he will use his agents
Come on.
his meleks, his melachim, to assist us in these battles. So, going on, it says, talking about the tribes, to them in all his ways are true. So he's been assigned to the tribes. There's a gap. I wish we had all the words, but there's a gap. They're kind of eaten away in history. And to them, all his ways are true, and he will heal them of all their ills. And so I'm just thinking now he's giving a message about the Melech, the King of Kings. To them, all his ways are true, and he will heal them of all their ills. And there's a blank, them from death. So I'm thinking, deliver them from death and from destruction. I put that word delivered, but I think it fits. And over you, blessed sons, all the generations of Israel forever. So pardon the choppiness, but it's missing words. And it goes on, it says, all the generations of Israel forever. Blessed are the sons, all the generations of Israel forever. And then it goes on, and there's a blank, and it talks about, it says, angry at me for the sons of righteousness, between the sons of lying and the sons of truth, I will make known to you. Certainly, I will inform you that all the sons of light will be made light. That all the sons of light will be made light. Well, if we are a son of light, and we use that word son as generic, it's, as a child. All the children of light will be made light, whereas all the sons of darkness will be made dark. The sons of light, and in all their knowledge they will be, and the sons of darkness will be destroyed. For all foolishness and evil will be darkened, while all peace and truth will be made light. And all the sons of light are destined for light and eternal joy and rejoicing. All the sons of darkness are destined for darkness and death and destruction, lightness for the people. And I shall reveal to you, and there's a blank, and goes on, from darkness for all the sons of darkness and all, and it finishes up. There's another blank that says, and all the sons of light. So I love how this echoes the themes that you and I have had from the Brit Hadashah. It also echoes in terms of our future.
Yep.
And what I think about our future says that the sons of light will be light. And I think that speaks of what Adam was like before the fall. Because when we look at the restoration of all things, it would also mean the restoration of all things would take us back to the pre-fall era of Adam and Chava. So what did that look like? What did Adam and Chava look like before? They covered themselves with fig leaves because they recognized that they were naked, but before then they were light. Yeah, go ahead.
It just makes me think of the sons of light going back to light. The spark of life from the beginning is a spark.
The spark of
It's
life.
life.
When the seed of man connects with the egg,
It's a light.
there's light. They have documented that scientifically,
Yes.
that there's a burst of
Yes.
light. So yeah, just think
I watched
about
the
that.
picture. It was amazing.
Just think about that. So when our light is fully restored, there will be an explosion of light. When Yeshua returns and we are restored and the full restoration comes, then there will be explosions of light all around us. And wow, that means all darkness flees away. Isn't that just, so think, and I love this because he's given this download in a dream.
Prophecy coming true.
Father, give us more dreams like
Yes,
that. We need
exactly.
contemporary dreams
Yes.
like this. Not that they're going to replace his word, and not saying that this testament of Amram is replacing his word, but you realize what it does is it reinforces
Yes.
everything that we know and maybe helps us connect some of those dots together. And so that's all I have from this printout from this testament of Amram. But the very fact that he's talking about light, we have this connection of Malachiah, which now one of the thoughts and one of the things that I was reading is that talking about Malachiah as being an alternative name for Moses, because he ended up being a messenger from Yah.
Yes.
Because think about this. He got a download at the burning bush. He returns to Egypt, and what's he do? He delivers messages to the people of Israel first, the leadership of all of the Hebrew people, and then he goes before Pharaoh and delivers the message. He is a Malachiah.
Yes.
He is a messenger of God. Now, the very other thing that's very interesting thing about it is that there is a thought process, is that him being a Malachiah, that I'm not saying this, I'm just saying in the academic writings that he is possibly this one who leads Israel, the cloud by day and the fire by night.
Ew.
Now, I'm not saying that's Moses. I'm not saying that. That's what the academics are saying, that perhaps he is this one that is like a light in the darkness and a covering during the day that is leading the people through this wilderness. I'm not saying that, but there's imagery here that him being a son of light, that is much like the cloud by day and the fire by night. I'm not saying that. That's what the academics are saying. But it makes me just kind of think about it, because to the people of Israel, Moses was light to them.
Yeah.
They didn't want to believe him at first, especially when Pharaoh cracked down on them and caused more oppression. But ultimately, they see the hand of Yah protecting all of Israel when they're covered by the blood on their doorposts. And the angel of death passes over them, and they leave Egypt, and they leave Egypt plundered. Egypt is plundered as they depart. And when they depart, you see they leave following Moses because they fully believe
He was himself.
that Yah called him to lead them out of slavery, so that he is the instrument where they see the redemption and the deliverance of Yah from all of their captives. And so in this testament of Amram, he sees his son, Moses and Aaron, involved in an eternal priesthood. I want you to consider something, because we see Aaron as the high priest, but we also know that is the descendants of Aaron who continue the lineage of the high priest, which we see with the lineage of Zadok through the Second Temple period writings, and that which was kept with the community of Yahad. Ultimately, we see Yeshua from that lineage, right? We've talked about that for 10 weeks. And yet, on the other side, we see a priesthood in Moses, because with Moses, let me ask you this, did not Moses go before the Most High?
Yes.
Did Moses
Yes.
continue to go into the tabernacle
Yes.
to meet with Yah and come back out with a message?
Mhm.
Was it not Moses that he and Aaron that would fall flat on their face when they saw the rumblings and the grumblings and the protests of the people, and they're like, "Oh my goodness, don't! This is treason before Yah. What are you doing? Oh God, don't strike them all dead right now." And it also interesting that we see this connection with Miriam at the very beginning. And she wasn't that young, apparently. When she got married, she was 30. She waited till she was 30, and Dad said, I'm not leaving this earth unless you have a husband. We're gonna hook you up now.
But that's when their ministry began.
Yeah, and Miriam, as much a part of the ministry, being a prophetess of the Most High, we see what she did with the people of Israel. They respected her. So
Yep.
there's this powerful, powerful connection where there is great respect. So if it's great respect for Moses and Aaron and Miriam, then what does it say about their father? Now, I want to connect something that Isaiah said in Isaiah 60, and I'm going to conclude with this. Isaiah 60, verse 1, arise, shine, for your light has come, and the glory of Yah has risen upon you. For behold, darkness will cover the earth, and deep darkness the peoples. But Yahweh will rise upon you, and his glory will appear upon you. And nations will come to your light, and kings to the brightness of your rising.
Yes.
Think about this. We're talking about each one of us entering in to our original design.
Hey,
Light bursting out
that's good.
of us as we are connected to the light. It cannot be held back. And then a glorious light shining forth. Wow. So when it talks about Yeshua, when he comes, it'll be like lightning that shines from the east to the west, and the brightness of his coming will be seen by everyone.
Yes.
Well, what about this? When he comes in and it's like lightning, and that all of the world sees, but when he comes in, that every believer in his kingdom all of a sudden connect with his light, that the light breaks forth from every corner of the earth. It won't be hard to see who belongs and who doesn't. Boy, don't you think that doesn't that make sense that all of the earth will mourn that sees him?
Yes.
Because they'll see him and they'll see that it's true. All right. I'm just gonna close it off with that. Interesting, isn't it? It's a white pill today. We're white pilled ourselves, right? As we see this thing. Yes. Father, we just bless you and we honor you today, and we just thank you for these little tidbits of stuff, things that you give us within your word, these things that the community of the Ahad was preserving for us for this day, for us to have more of a greater glimpse of and broaden our spectrum of being able to dig in and have more of a revelation of you. And we want more. We want more dreams and visions.
Yes.
We want to have greater understanding. We want your word to burst forth and that shines forth lights and things that not only things that we don't want to be just wowed and wooed all the time, but just things that we can chew on so that our character is more and more like the character of Yeshua as we see things from so many different dimensions. And as we saw over in 4 Ezra, how Ezra was given a cup to drink, and that cup to drink was like fire. It was like a fire water.
Hey.
It was we want to drink from the cup
Yes.
that causes us to elevate out of this dimension and transcend to this dimension where you are, so that when we see you, we'll be like you because we see you as you are. So we just thank you to take us on this journey to elevate and to be in a place where you are.
Yes.
So Father, watch over your people this week. Everyone that's gathered with us, those that are not with us today, but those that are online with us, those that are supposed to be with us, that you continue to cause us to draw closer and closer to you in this time, so that we are so in sync with you that our ears hear what your Spirit is saying. This is the way, walk therein. We just bless you for it in the mighty name of Yeshua. Amen.